You need a structured annual performance management process. There's obviously the basics where everybody knows what they're being evaluated on. You set up your KPIs at the beginning of the year so you know what you're being managed against in terms of what you're doing. And then in all the performance management tools I've used, Deltac and Amerigo, it's also how you're doing it. So you could be fabulous at what you're doing, but if you're a huge jerk and no one wants to work with you, you better be the best in the world. That's how we've done it in both businesses. Right? How are you doing against your KPI? That should be very much numerical or at least quantitative. So you and the team member know where they stand at any given point in time. And then there's the qualitative piece. We align it to our values, our core values, and we align the how you're doing it to each one of those and how you're representing those values, not in an abstract way, but in a way that's specific to your role. So that's just like the annual review. So going into the year, everybody in the team knows what they're being measured against. What doesn't work is you get to the end of the year and you pull out that document and everybody does a self-review and you do your review and then you talk about it. It only works if it's ongoing. In one-to-ones that I do with my team, I always try to start with the people side of things before we get into the tactics and the strategies. Like, how are you doing as an individual, or things that you're trying to work on with that person? You're talking about that first, because guaranteed you will use up to 30 or 45 minutes or an hour on all the tactical and strategic things. And then if you're not talking about the strengths and development areas, you then wind up with surprises. And the absolute worst thing you can do is have a difficult performance conversation with someone who's totally surprised. And you're convinced in your head, or you and your fellow leaders are convinced, oh my gosh, they're not doing this, that, and the other. It's so obvious. And then you get this like blank look. What are you talking about? And that's your fault. It's not their fault, because you are not being clear on what issues were coming up as they were coming up. So real-time feedback is essential. Everybody can have development areas, and yes, you're going to have tough conversations, but it only works when you're roughly on the same page and it's known, right? You're having the tough conversation in the moment. I try to do it after a phone call. If something that I spot that I know is a problem, I'll try to deal with it right then and there. A mentor of mine back in the Deltac days, he had this system where you'd have a meeting or you'd see something and it'd be Craig's file, and he'd just jot something down and throw it in there. Now it's digital, of course, but it should be, again, real-time ongoing. But also when you're doing the annual review, you have a 12 months of things, good things and things that need work, because by the time you're sitting down for a review in August, stuff that happened last October, the recency effect comes in and it's hard to remember that. So for your own system, keeping the good and the difficult things so you can leave that discussion with the person feeling energized and you're on the same page.